What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? It is your boy Rufus. We're back at it again with another guest appearance on the Rufus Rundown. Coming up on episode 20. Got two good guests this week, and we got a great guest today in my friend Jake Ashworth. Jake is currently a assistant coach for the WPI men's basketball team, and he was a member of the coaching staff of the year for the NEWMAC conference just this past season, his first season coaching with them. Is also the leading three-point maker and free throw percentage leader at UMass Dartmouth in their history, and is a 10th all-time scorer with 1,647 points, as well as a three-time all-conference player. Jake, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm excited to be on it.
So, Jake, obviously going from being a highly regarded player, transitioning to coaching, but going to kind of dive into some of the UMD stuff a little bit. Considering how successful your career was at UMass Dartmouth, what did it mean to you to be able to accomplish what you did so close to home at UMass Dartmouth and just overall in your collegiate career?
Yeah, it was great being able to be close to home. I'm really close with my grandfather and just my family in general, and being able to have him at every single game throughout my career was awesome. I look up to him tremendously, so just having him around, being able to be around him, and whenever I needed to be home for any type of situation, being able to get there in 10 minutes was always great. So doing it close to home was fantastic. All growing up, I could have friends and everybody at the games, whoever wanted to come see. So that was great. And then us as a team, like winning our first conference championship in 13 years at UMass Dartmouth, and that was huge for us as a program and for me and all my teammates. So being able to accomplish some good things, being close to home, and just for our team in general was pretty awesome.
Now, it's kind of unique there, too, where you weren't the only local guy there. A lot of you guys a lot of the 1,000-point scorers, more specifically, that you played with and graduated with, were very local, too. Was that also kind of unique, having seen some guys and being able to play with some guys that you were hearing of or competing with in your time in high school, and then making the jump and being able to play with them at the next level?
Yeah, the South Coast still got some players. We were a bunch of local boys, and we just meshed really well. Me playing with Adam all through high school, playing against him and battling against him was great. And then just we all loved each other. So having that team bond was huge and instrumental to our success.
Now, as you progressed in your career as a player, your goal was always to coach at the next level and coach at the highest of levels. Eventually, Division I, I know is your goal to eventually get to. What were some of the big things that you were able to pull from a guy like Coach Baptiste, who has so much experience coaching and now over 700 collegiate wins? What were some of the big things you were able to pull from him as a college coach and being a college player, being able to play underneath him?
Winning. So he has a tremendous track record of winning, and that's definitely what I've always held as the most important thing in all sports. You got to be able to win. People get fired. People get hired because that's what they do. That's their professional career. So he has the track record of winning. He taught us exactly what we need to be able to do in order to achieve that. So just learning how to run a program in terms of always having the goal of getting a victory is kind of that's probably what I picked up most from him. And then always just playing hard. Like, you can't win games if your team doesn't play hard. So he coached hard every day in practice. We played hard every day in practice. And just having that culture, winning culture is kind of what I picked up, I think, the most in my time under BAP at UMD.
Now, is there anything specifically within your own game that you think you've been able to, that's been easier to coach and allow players to comprehend and improve upon? And are there some things in your game some things you might not have understood as well as a player that you've been able to also learn more about as a coach?
I think leadership. Looking back on it, at the time, like I definitely messed up a time or two, but I think looking back on it now as a coach, having a guy that could lead the way I did was huge for our team's success, and just the energy from a leader, it'll circulate around the team to the point where hopefully everyone gets to that same level of leadership and intensity every day. So at the time, I didn't appreciate it as much as I do now that I'm a basketball coach.
Yeah, you've always been one of my favorite. I mean, I've been a teammate with you in Legion Ball, and I could not stand to play against you when I played in high school. The energy that you brought as a player, and this is high school baseball. Then becoming your teammate, you were the hands down the best teammate that I've ever played with. The energy you brought, the knowledge of the game. It's not just useless. People can get misconstrued with energy and glue guys and stuff like that in terms of that they don't provide certain things, that they're strictly stuck into that role. But that's not the case. Everybody does have the role, but your role was much bigger than that because you understood the game. Everything you were saying there was meaning, there was purpose behind it, and also had the ability to back it up too, which is the big thing with bringing that energy, which I think frustrates teams even more. You can be a rah-rah guy and you can bring energy and talk and understand rotations and everything. It's one thing to be like, oh, well, that's all. He does all that because that's how he finds his role. On top of that, you're knocking down huge shots, leading the team in scoring and doing different things to even further frustrate your opponents, which I think is unique with what you were able to do.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So now we're going to kind of, I guess, carry into more of the jump to coaching. What was the biggest adjustment in this move out to Worcester for you coming? What was it like moving to a new school, being in a new role? How was the whole transition of the whole process?
So going to WPI, it's definitely a different type of school. So we're high academic business and STEM school. We're one of the best engineering schools in the country. And understanding the level of difficulty it is to perform in the classroom and on the basketball court at our school. I'm not saying UMass Dartmouth was a walk in the park, but academically it's much more demanding where I am now. So to be able to have the guys that are as dedicated to basketball as we were at UMass Dartmouth, while also being probably much more involved with the academics, being able to balance the two, putting in the exact same amount of work, if not more, than we did at UMass Dartmouth as a player, is really eye-opening. So the guys on our team at the WPI, I respect them a tremendous amount just because of the demanding program that we have for basketball as well as the academic fit at WPI.
Yeah, I mean, it being the Division III school, so I know personally, at least for my school, they always preach student in front of athlete. It's D3. We're all going, at least for the majority of us, we're going on to do different things that are not including professional sports. Obviously, there's unique people who go overseas. They play professional overseas, like Marcus Azor, or people that go to the league. But when you're playing the Division III level, your expectation is you're going to go into the work field. And when you're at a place like WPI, it's going to be a demanding work field. You're going to have to prove yourself at school too. So again, that's the unique process. Not only you're a student athlete anywhere, at WPI maybe not more than anywhere else, but just as much as anywhere else, you're going to be held to even higher standard there in the classroom, which I think is unique for you in terms of recruiting too, because you can't just recruit anybody. They need to be able to succeed in the classroom, succeed at a high level, and have an interest in some of those things that are provided at WPI, which also gives you an edge in recruiting too, I think, in terms of kids that want to pursue certain fields because of how highly touted WPI is in terms of those specific fields. So again, you kind of have two different things to look at there. You might be able to pull everybody, but at the same time, you have to be able to pull people from other schools because of how good your programs are. Now, you've made the jump from a very winning program where you were at in UMass Dartmouth to another very winning program at WPI. What's that been like in terms of jumping to a top 25 nationally ranked school who's always competing in getting to either getting to the tournament or always competing in that NEWMAC conference that always has a team that's competing in the tournament?
Yeah, I think that their winning ability and just what they've done over the years was a big draw for me to also go there because, like I said earlier, winning is one of the most important things to me in this world, which is sometimes gets me in a hairy situation with my girlfriend and stuff and my family. But I'm gonna beat my grandfather in checkers. I'm winning. So I think that it was great to go to a program and have so much success in our first year. It didn't end how we wanted it, but I think that I want to build a winning culture no matter where it is that I fall. I just happened to go to a place that already had a extremely winning past.
Now, obviously, winning culture within the team. What's the culture like with the coaching staff there too, and adjusting to having relationships with the coaches instead of being a part of having the relationships with the team and having to have different relationships in terms of that coach player, but also coach the coach. That you might now you're on the other side of that. When you were a player, you had those different relationships with the coach and the player. Now you're on the flip of it. What's that adjustment been like?
Yeah, so our coaching staff, we grind. This past season, we won NEWMAC Coaching Staff of the Year. It's very demanding, the work that we have to do, putting together scouting reports, watching tons and tons of game film, analyzing the plays, analyzing another team's defense, analyzing what we do, all that stuff. It's very demanding, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Coach Bartley has instilled a gritty culture at WPI, and I'm ecstatic to be a part of that culture now. And I think it just shows why we've been so successful over the past 20-something years that Coach Bartley's been there. And just now getting a coach-player relationship, right? All those guys on the team are much more important than I am. So it's like I need to make sure that I get along with all of the players. That is an assistant coach's job. And I need to be able to be the voice between the players and the coaches, right? And the head coach. So sometimes, they might want to talk back, but they're not going to do that because that's not the culture that we've designed there. But, however, they may go to me. I relay that message, and now maybe the coach takes it a different way than it would have come out of the player's mouth. So that, and at UMass Dartmouth, Tommy did a great job of that. We would go to him if we had anything, and he would go to Coach Bapp, and then that's kind of how we resolve stuff because nobody's going to talk back to the coach in a practice or whatever. That's just not acceptable. But having an assistant coach that can do that, and maybe not during practice, it may happen after practice, and it doesn't get resolved that day. But being that voice between the players and the coaches is extremely important, and I think that that's been an adjustment I needed. I had never been in that coaching position yet, so I want to think that I did an okay job at that, but who knows?
Now, it's unique in basketball as to where you guys are closer and smaller, so those type of relationships, I'd say they're more centered, I would say, in the sense where you have more access to people. Football, where I come from, it's different because you have position coaches, and then you have people that are leaders, players that are leaders within their position, leaders within the team. Then you have position coaches, so kind of have a chain of command thing, like you were saying. Go through the assistant, the tone changes. You kind of read the room with the coach. It's the same football. We have position coaches. My relationship with my defensive line coach was great. There was always an open line of communication. He would relay the message however he saw it to the coach, or would kind of come to you hey, that's not that big of a deal in our eyes. Don't worry too much about that, or let's focus on this. the lines of communication you're with your assistant coaches are huge, because you look at it from kind of like a military setting too, where it's like you have the general, you have the colonels, you have the commanding officers, stuff like that. It kind of falls in line with that too, where it's like there's certain things that you go through the process to work its way up the chain, and that's how that mode of communication works, and nobody's feelings really get hurt. Like you said, there's no talking back or anything like that. It's professional, and it stays in the team. Nothing ever gets outside of it, and I think that's just the best working environment. It shows why you guys have the winning culture that you do. Is there any adjustments that you think that you're going to have to make now, journeying outside of culture-wise? Are there any adjustments coaching-wise for you that you already have kind of notes made up to work on and to improve upon? And is there anything that you thought that any goals that you had going into this season that you did accomplish and that you were happy with the results from?
Yeah, I want to. At the beginning of the year, we set a couple goals. We didn't achieve nearly as much as we wanted to, but 20 wins was a goal that we set. NEWMAC regular season champions was a goal we set, and we accomplished those two. So that was, looking back, we just didn't accomplish all that we wanted to, but we did have a good year. And at the time, even a month after, it didn't seem like that was the case, but we definitely did have a tremendous year as a team. What was the other part of the question?
So obviously I was coming off of what you said, with the goals you had going in. Are there some things that you already kind of have pegged as a coach for yourself and as a team? Some things you guys are working towards to improve upon within the upcoming season?
Yeah, so early in the year, we had 2 new assistant coaches. So there was Coach Bartley. The other 2 assistants, brand new. So we were brand new. We were learning on the fly, and most of the players knew more about our offensive, defensive schemes than we did as assistant coaches. So a big thing that I think that is a goal of mine, as well as I think a huge bonus for the program, is that now the assistants know what we're talking about, at the beginning of the year. I think we have a good grasp on our offensive, defensive concepts, the things that we're trying to teach, the culture that we're trying to build, and we have a much better, we have more knowledge about what it is that we do at WPI. So goal of that is for just at the beginning of the year, getting off to a hot start, all assistants on the same page. We know not everything, but we know much more than we did in the previous year, and then being able to teach it. Because even when we learned it, right, there were a lot of things that we still, the players still had more knowledge. When you're learning something, you can't teach it right away. You got to learn it, really 100% understand it before you teach it to players. So just making sure that we are aligned as a coaching staff, and then now us as assistants, we can teach these skills right on the first day of practice rather than waiting a couple weeks before we're able to do that.
I mean, that's incredibly impressive that you guys had as much success as you did while you guys were still trying to pick up what the system was. But obviously it comes all together throughout, and it's kind of unique in a sense where you guys are able to have kind of players pick you up in that sense where it's all right, well, these guys are still trying to learn the system. We're going to help them learn it as best we can, as the same time as we're going to put up the numbers that we do and have the success that we have. So again, that's part of winning culture, where it's players are picking up you guys as well, trying to help you guys as best they can, and not expecting a crazy amount out of you guys to be all right, they have to know this at this point, and still having that respect for you. I think that's a pretty unique little relationship that you guys have there as well. Now, I kind of want to journey into recruiting a little bit too. Do you guys have specific areas you recruit, or is it kind of just as it comes? This guy's, we're kind of looking at this guy here, this guy here. Do you have a specific method you do with recruiting? Is there a specific area you're assigned, or is it just kind of more of an open dialogue amongst the coaching staff?
Open dialogue. We're grinding. We're at more tournaments. We're at everything more than every other Division III coach or staff in New England. I don't. There's a couple other coaches that grind. They do a great job getting out recruiting as well. I think for us, we need to be out there as much as we can, because there's so many different things that could mess up the process in terms of, all right, we really like this kid. We think he's going to get in. Maybe he doesn't get in academically because of the academic fit. Then we got to get the academic fit. Money-wise, our school is an expensive school. We have to make sure that the money piece goes the way that we want it to go so we get these players. And then also with those two things, we need to get really good players because we're a really good program and you can't win if you don't have good players. And no matter how good your coaching staff is, it does not matter. You need good players to get the job done. So we're out. We're trying to pick up as best players that we can pick up, and that fit within the team. A big thing for us, we take into account what our players think of this person immensely. If they do not get along, we'll probably not take them. So we value our players' opinions a lot, and that is something that was extremely new to me at WPI. So when they do their visit, whatever, we have them meet with players, the same at every school, but we really value what our players actually think of this kid when he does his visit.
Yeah, I imagine basketball, obviously, like you have a smaller team, so it's almost it's got to be incredibly hard in terms of like who you pick because you only have so many roster spots that you can fill, and you have to pick the right guys. But at the same time, it's a little easier to get that dialogue because you only have so many people that they have to meet and build those relationships with, so you can kind of get better feedback there. From the football perspective, we have 80-something kids in the roster. They're trying to get to 150. They're trying to bring 70 more kids in. You can't really be that perfect. But at the same time, they still do try to value our opinion as much as you can. Like, hey, we don't like this kid. Hey, we do like this kid. But it's probably a little more different in terms of football where it's more of a numbers game, where basketball, you're really trying to fit. Does he fit my system? Does he fit the school? Does he fit the financials? And does he fit with what we're trying to do here? Because if all of that doesn't line up, obviously you can see it from the NBA perspective. You look at a team like the Brooklyn Nets where you can have all the talent in the world and it doesn't really work out for you. So just in terms of like an example you can look at there. But obviously being within a culture that has had so much success, the transition for you guys, the foundation is set, and you just work with what's been working for them as well. Now, there's something I wanted to ask you, Jake, because you are a teacher as well as a coach, which they're more of the same thing, but they are a little different. Is there something as a coach and a teacher? Are there things and methods that you use that you picked up from either of the professions that has made you better at the other one, or the techniques that you've been able to use within both, or have been able to be like, oh, this might work here or there in terms of how you coach and how you teach?
Yeah, I think they're extremely similar. You need to develop a culture in your classroom for them to perform to the best of their ability and set high standards for them that need to be accomplished. And I think that they both go hand in hand, teaching and coaching. If your students don't like you, they're not going to perform how you want them to perform. They're not going to listen to what you say. And it's the same thing as a basketball coach, right? You all need to be aligned as a coach, as a teacher. Coach, you have to be aligned, everyone on the same page. And I think that having that alignment is huge. And I think that I learn a little bit from teaching every day. I learn a little bit from coaching every day. And then I try and use those two things to get better at both of them.
Now, making the transition from playing to coaching, was there ever was there ever like a welcome to coaching moment in a sense that you had where there was a moment of experience where it's like, oh, this is different. We're in a different league. Is there like a first time experience you had coaching, or any event that happened where you were like, man, this is different. This is a change.
Yeah. When I first got hired, to see how much we were out on the road recruiting. Because I got hired first as a volunteer because the contracts didn't start until, I forget when they didn't start. I'm a volunteer. I was out every single weekend recruiting, and I was like, holy crap, this is like, it's on. Like, we're for real. We're getting, like, there is no stop for basketball coaching, right? You need to get players, and then in season, you got to focus on your season while still recruiting the players. So I think right away when I was hired under a great assistant coach, probably the best assistant coach in the country, Jeff Robinson, and he was just a grinder, and we were out every weekend, and he really taught me how to get players, what I should say, and just the work ethic we have to have in order to obtain those players and maintain the standards of our program.
Now, in terms of film watching, too, that takes up a good chunk of time in game planning and such like that. Is there anything you've picked up in the world of coaching that you wish you had known when you were a player in terms of those techniques?
I think analyzing film, and we look at like other players, like individual players on the other team, their strengths and weaknesses, which I had never I'd watched game film on other teams, but it was kind of just like as a team. Like I watched them as a team, not individual players, where if I could have studied individual players' moves while I was a player in college, I think that would have helped me defensively, guarding people, because there were times where I struggled defensively early on in my career. And just being able to know what they were doing and the stuff to look for, that would have helped me defensively. I think defensively it was that would have been a huge help if I knew what I know now.
Now, is there anything like in terms of like play style wise too that you think you could have like that you've learned now more through the coaching staff that you're on now that you think would have even elevated your game even more, or is it pretty much just you're able to now pass on what you did and did so well?
If I could have guarded the way that we guard at WPI, us as a team would have been one of the best teams in the country, which we are. We were finishing the Sweet 16. If we guarded the way that we do at WPI now, we would have had a legitimate chance of winning the national title. We really, really guard. And then for me as a player, if I was able to guard at that level, at the level that we do at WPI, I would have been really good. I would have been a really good player. So I think that just defensively, I've learned so much this year. And looking back, if us as a team guarded the way that we do at WPI as a team, if I guarded individually like Donovan Sevilla and Aiden Callahan do on our team, like it would have been unbelievable.
Now, how many seniors are you guys losing going into this next year? What's the roster looking like? Because obviously you guys are NEWMAC regular season champions, and what came down to the end with Babson, with the upset and the injuries going on in that game. What do you guys have looking forward into this next season from a team perspective?
So we're losing 3 seniors. 2 of them are team captains, and they're all grinded it out. 2 of them didn't get much playing time early on in their career. Maybe their first 3 years. This year they got significant minutes that were extremely important to us. And then one of them was our best player, John Lowther, 2-time first team all conference, tremendous player. So we're losing some of our leadership. I shouldn't say our leadership, because I think that we do have plenty of leaders still on the team. Those 3 we're losing good part. However, I think that we have guys that are going to step up into bigger roles this year and excel in those roles. And then we have a good recruiting class coming in. We got 5 guys, and hopefully they can make an impact on our team right away.
Now, you mentioned, too, having a lot of leadership on the team. Do you find like a correlation between the grades in the school and what they're doing major-wise and stuff, too, as an association with guys that are coachable and willing to buy into a culture?
I just think being able to be at WPI, I don't see any association between like certain majors. But in order to excel academically and basketball-wise at WPI, those are the type of guys that we get, and those are the type of guys that succeed for us. So I don't see a correlation between specific majors, but if you're able to do it basketball-wise and you're able to do it in the classroom, those are the type of guys that we want, and those are the type of guys that we get.
Yeah, I feel like with obviously if you're able to do it in the classroom, you should be able to learn in any type of environment. So if they're willing to learn the way they do and have the dedication to do it, obviously they're going to have the same mindset when it comes to basketball and being coachable and learning the system and stuff like that. So I feel like that's a huge advantage for you guys, for people that want to be there, you guys want there, and they understand what's going on, and are able to process information in a certain way that allows them to elevate their game. Jake, it's been a pleasure having you on. I think this is right around the half-hour time. I think we got a lot in right there. Is there anything else that you have on your mind right now?
I appreciate you having me. It's been fun.
All right, so WPI, when do you guys kick off your seasons?
We start October 15th. That'll be the first day of practice, and then we'll have our first game probably 4 weeks after that.
So getting into around Halloween, stuff like that, you guys will be kicking off.
Go. Yeah.
Fair enough. I took a trip out there, and for that conference championship game, which was unfortunate how it went down. But the campus, beautiful. It was snowing still, but the campus is beautiful. The gym was beautiful. We're thinking about. I went to where I went to high school, and where I go to college. Totally different. Different scenes. I think my high school gym actually might be bigger than my college gym, believe it or not. But the barn boxes I'm used to seeing, and then you go there, and I'm like, this is a facility. This is a place, and that was just, I'm sure, one of the many locations at the campus where it's just really, really nice school.
Yeah, that helps us get a lot of good players.
But Jake, thank you very much for joining me. I'll link your socials down there as well too, and I'll even throw a recruit and interest form in there too, in case maybe I'll get you some guys in there that are tuning into the podcast. Who knows? But again, thank you, thank you so much for joining me.
All right, thank you for having me. See you later.